it's a moral obligation to be transparent and communicative about not only the work that we're doing, but what we're learning about the work that we're doing and having a point of view about the work that we're doing.
One of my core beliefs is that science centers, museums, aquariums, zoos, these sort of public spaces have an obligation to be more than these sort of passive places for learning and need to be proactive players in solving real problems in their community.
I'm Eric Ressler.
I'm Jonathan Hicken.
And this is Designing Tomorrow. Okay, Jonathan, I am so excited for our episode today. Partly because I'm a little bit nervous and partly because I want to hear your thoughts about it.
Okay.
So I've been like spinning my brain around something that's been coming up for me, and it's showing up in a few different ways. One is that when in working with clients, something that I've noticed sometimes, and I've noticed this over the years, and it's something that's like coming up and up more and more, and it's starting to like irk me. And what it is that sometimes we work with leaders and founders who have this hesitancy to feel like their voice should be heard in the work that they do. It's somewhat related to this, like, I just want to hunker down and do good work. I don't want to be public. I don't want to like share what we're doing. I just want to do the good work. And it's like, that's good enough. I just don't buy that anymore, man. I just don't buy it anymore. I don't think it's right. And I think we, in this space, I'll even make a point that it's a moral obligation to be transparent and communicative about not only the work that we're doing, but what we're learning about the work that we're doing. And this is the focus of our episode today, having a point of view about the work that we're doing. What's that like unlock for you when I say it that way? I just want to hear, like, what's your initial response?
I mean, I'm like, am I the right leader for my organization? Because sometimes I feel that, right? I feel that is my voice really, and my point of view really worth putting out into the world.
So here's what I would say. Like, I don't want this to come across as like a judgmental thing,
No,
right?
no.
And the other thing I'll say is, like, let's define point of view in a second. But I think that sounds a little bit scary, right? And even this is, I come into this episode saying I'm a little bit nervous. And the reason I'm nervous is because I'm going to put out a new point of view right now today.
Tight.
And that scariness, that fear, to me, that's a signal that you're onto something. Because if it's not a little scary to say something, it's probably kind of boring. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So here's what I would say. I'm going to make a case for this. I'm going to make a case that if you are a leader, especially at a social impact organization, if you're an executive director, but really, like, if you're anywhere in the leadership team, after a certain amount of time, if you've been doing this work and you're doing it in good faith and you're doing it fully, you should start to develop a point of view about how the work should be done. And you should be willing to share that, and you should be willing to be wrong. And you should be willing to listen to the community about how you're wrong, because that is going to make you better as a leader, and it's going to make your organization more effective. And I think sometimes what I hear from clients that I work with or people that we're talking to is like, well, why would anyone care what I have to say about this thing? Or I'm not an expert at this thing. And here's an important distinction in my mind. You don't have to be an expert to have a point of view. Now, should we listen to experts? Yes, I believe strongly that we should. At the same time, like, if you do this work in any way for any amount of time, you do have a unique vantage point. You have just a series of lived experiences that over time you can start to like see some patterns. You start to see things happen over and over again. Oh, when we do this, this happens. Oh, we notice that these people have these problems in this space, right? So these are things that I'm sure, like, you have some lived experiences doing this work. Let's just even say at the Seymour Center over the last few years. What are some of the things that come to mind for you about like what you've noticed in being an executive director?
Yeah, and some things are coming to mind. I'm going to put them on the table, and then I want to understand if it fits within your definition of point of view.
Yeah.
I probably would have used the word like core belief here.
Okay.
But for example, I would say like one of my core beliefs is that science centers, museums, aquariums, zoos, these sort of public spaces have an obligation to be more than these sort of passive places for learning and need to be proactive players in solving real problems in their community.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one. The other is that I believe that spaces like ours, like physical spaces, have power.
Yeah.
And that there's energy, and maybe this is kind of woo-woo, but like, you know, I even think of like an extreme example, like the Roman Colosseum or like a modern sports stadium even is like you go in and you feel something, right? You feel energy in there, and I believe spaces have power.
Yep.
Two of my beliefs are like, we have an obligation to be proactive players, and we should use our spaces to solve those problems.
Perfect. Both of those, in my opinion, are good examples of strong points of view. Now, let's get into the definition a little bit. So I'm not going to give you like a textbook definition. No. I don't have one.
Nope.
But to me, it's like, if you have a point of view, like in the simplest version of this, and this is, I think, where our listeners should start, because I think at this point, our listeners are probably like, wait, do I have one of these things, right? And in prepping for this episode, and as I've been thinking about this, I always think about like, wait, am I doing this thing that I'm saying our leaders should be doing? And I'll share that in a second. But the way that I think about this is like, at the most basic version of this, your point of view is a pattern of lived experiences that you've observed. They can start at their base level as observations even, right? And your observations are going to be unique to your position in your social impact ecosystem. That can build and build and build to beliefs and opinions. To me, I think the pinnacle kind of like keystone that you should be working towards is an overarching point of view that all your other beliefs and points of views can branch off from.
Right. The grand unifying sort of
theory. The unifying theory. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been working towards and what I'm going to share with you. And so let's not get like hung up on like specific semantics. It's just like at some level, it's like the observations, the beliefs, the opinions, and the theory of like how this work should be done based on your lived experiences.
We did an episode recently called Strategy Tier Rankings, and we kind of broke down like theory of change and tagline and mission and vision, all these sort of like the importance of these things.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing you say is that the difference between a point of view and all of those things we went over in that episode is that point of view is a very individual thing. Mm-hmm. It is not necessarily a reflection of the organization. It is like me, the individual, and my life experience being at least part of the equation of what my organization is doing. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. Like, I do think these, like, a point of view comes, in my opinion, the origin story of them is from individuals, you know, and they're not even only leaders, but like individuals within the organization. I think probably the closest thing to like an organizational point of view would be like a theory of change, although those are often a little bit too dry for it to like truly be a point of view, especially like the standard theory of change. However, what I would say is that the point of view from especially a leader at an organization or a series of leaders should have major influence in how you do your work.
Okay, so got it. All right, so let's move on and start hearing about. Are you ready to peel back the curtain here?
Sure. So like I'll share in an effort to kind of like just be candid about where I'm at with this. This is something that I've believed in for a long time, and I've been developing individual observations and lived experience doing this work over 16 years. So I have points of view about brand, points of view about how to build websites and what technology we should use, points of view about communication, points of view about how the social impact space at large should work, right? So I've had these like this collection of evolving points of view. And I think it was 2022, I could be wrong. I sat down and I wrote a manifesto, and it was before manifestos were scary. I mean, I guess it was a little scary. But I wrote this manifesto, and at that point, like my entire framing of this work was through a concept called the attention economy. And at the time, that was something that people didn't really talk about a lot. And I feel like it's become much more common and almost maybe like a household term, that as there's more and more forces vying for our attention, you have to get better and better about playing within that attention economy. And my thesis at the time was basically social impact organizations need to understand this attention economy that we're playing in. It's a paradigm shift in how we communicate through digital channels. And we need to get really good at playing in that ecosystem and probably think and act more like digital media companies than the traditional charity or nonprofit. That was this kind of pin, the stake in the ground that I released in 2022-ish. And for a long time, I don't want to say like rode that wave, but like that was very central to how I thought about this work. I still think that the attention economy is real, but I think it's shifting. And I think that everyone is playing in that attention economy, and the sector at large has gotten better about realizing that. And I think we're in a moment right now where there's another major paradigm shift happening from not just a technology standpoint, but a saturation standpoint, where like pumping out more and more content and just becoming visible isn't enough. And now we're in this moment where we hear words like authenticity and we hear words like vibe. And I started to think about that. And as my brain was like racking on this, I was like, what is upstream of all of that? Like, what is upstream of authenticity? Like, how can you even, what does it even mean to be authentic? Is it about like founder led brands? Is it about influencers? Is it about like being on TikTok, right? Like, and what I came to, and this aha moment that I'm about to reveal here is a little bit funny coming from a brand standpoint. To me, everything really at its core comes down to identity. And what I mean by identity is like deeply, truly knowing who you are as an individual and as an organization, deeply, truly knowing who you are becoming as an organization and living in alignment with that. And what that led to, and hey, I'm road testing this here just to be candid. I have this concept that I'm developing that I'm calling the identity impact gap. And what that gap is that the bigger the difference is between who you actually are, whether you know it or not, and how you present yourself, and more importantly, how you are perceived by the people that you care about reaching, the bigger that gap is, the bigger all of your problems are going to be. And the smaller that gap is, the better you're going to be at fundraising, the better you're going to be at retaining and attracting staff, the better that you're going to be at knowing what your strategy should be. So to me, there's this identity impact gap that is this sort of unnamed, unknown problem that maybe you feel, but you haven't named. And like my mission right now is to figure out how to help organizations get really clear about the actual true state of that gap and to close it as much as we can.
Fucking yeah, baby. First of all, that's awesome. Okay, I want to just we're this is chicken dinner, baby, right?
Like holes.
Chicken dinner. Okay,
Yeah.
So the identity impact gap. I love it. It's really easy to understand, and I wonder if that identity impact gap is sometimes necessary.
Oh, okay.
And helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about moments of transformation for an organization.
Yes.
Moments where you're pivoting. Moments where you are becoming something else.
Yeah.
And part of becoming that thing is stepping into and living that identity before you're really actually there. And so I wonder, right? I wonder if like applying the identity impact gap thinking is largely contextual, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
are you an established, scaled organization? Are you small and scrappy? Are you undergoing a transformation? But I wonder if sometimes that gap is actually a helpful pull.
Yeah, no, first of all, I love this dialogue. Thank you. I think I hear what you're saying and I agree. And I think like maybe to break this down a little bit further, there's actually like different levels of identity, right? There's like core identity. These are the things that will never change about you, right? To take me as an example, like creativity is like core to my identity. I don't think I could not be creative if I tried really hard. Like in an identity level, I can just certainly have days where I'm not creative or productive, whatever. But like, I couldn't stop being that even if I tried. It's like in my DNA or something, right? And I think that that's true also at some level for organizations too, and for leaders at organizations. So there's these durable elements of identity, and then there are these more transferable, fluid elements of identity, and probably even more so how your identity is expressed or explored. And so, yes, I do think there are moments where you have to stretch, right? Where you have to not, abandon your true identity, but become something new as an organization and step into a new identity. And I think that happens at the personal level too.
Totally.
Right? In major moments of life, like becoming a parent, right?
Totally.
Like both of us in becoming parents stepped into a major identity shift. And yet there are parts of your identity that you never lost in that transition, right? That are core to you and your being. So I think that's a good metaphor to like think about. Like when we use the word identity, what are we talking about?
Yeah, and actually, the point I brought up a moment ago about that gap being helpful sometimes, it's interesting. My mind went immediately to sort of organizational identity.
Yeah.
And not individual identity, and you brought it back to individual again. And
Yeah.
so I think like, I don't know, we're teasing out something important about your point of view here is
Yeah.
that this really is an individual sort of exercise.
Yes.
And yet my point still sort of applies because
It
like
does.
I'm thinking about like my fitness journey.
Mm-hmm.
And like I like convince myself that I was a CrossFitter
Yeah.
before I was a CrossFitter, and I like lived it and I did it. And now today I actually do identify that way.
Yeah.
And like health and fitness is like core now.
Yes.
But there was a moment where I was like, I had to kind of fake it till I made it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like there is sort of this moment of like stretch.
Hey friends, real quick before we continue today's episode. I'm Eric Ressler, founder and creative director at Cosmic. Cosmic is a creative agency purpose-built for nonprofits and mission-driven organizations. For the last 15 years, we've helped leaders like you nail your impact story and sharpen your strategy. But we're not here to just leave you with a fancy slide deck and a pat on the back. We roll up our sleeves and help you bring our ideas to life through campaigns, creative, and digital experiences. Our work together helps you earn trust, connect deeply with your supporters, and grow your fundraising and your impact. If you value the thinking we share here and want it applied to your biggest challenges, let's talk at designbycosmic.com. All right, back to today's conversation. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's true. And I don't think that the gap is necessarily a problem as long as you acknowledge that it's a transition, right? Where the gap becomes a problem is really largely a perception gap. And I think that's an important point to make in my point of view here is like, if you have an identity about who you are or who you're becoming, it's one thing for the gap in terms of like growth. There's like a growth gap there of like who we are and who we want to be, right? That is part of identity. But the one that I'm pointing to is actually more a perception gap. Either an internal knowing, if you are something and you think you're something else, that's a big problem, or you're not clear about who you are, that's a big problem. So those are versions of that perception gap. But even more so, I'm talking about a gap between who you do know you are, once you get clear on that, and who people think you are, or just don't understand who you are. This shows up in a couple different ways. Oh, there's this org, they're kind of like in this space that I don't really know what they do. Or like, oh, I thought that org did that thing, but it turns out they do something else. Or I just don't really understand like how they make an impact, right? Or a common one that we'll hear is like, oh, I thought you only did work in this area. So some of it might even just be lack of awareness, but I think that almost always stems from an identity problem or a perception problem. And that could be because messaging is weak. It can be because visibility or awareness is weak. But upstream of all of that, in my opinion, is identity.
Yeah, okay. And I actually think that last bit, you know, when you brought it to organizational identity and sort of external perception at the organizational level, like that was actually less compelling to me than this very individual sort of like focus.
Yeah.
That to me, I think is super powerful because, you know, it brings me actually to like, I see a therapist and like I'm doing a lot of this sort of core foundational work and not even realizing it. That work I'm doing in that environment is strengthening who I am as a leader. I didn't go to therapy for work, but it is playing out because in large part I am becoming more in touch with who I am and my identity and like what matters to me, and that is helping me show up better.
Yep.
And so I almost feel like the call to action here is like leaders need to like do that work.
Yes. They need to do the deep identity work individually, and that could be personal and or professional and organizationally.
Yeah, and obviously you need to be like conscious about applying that to work.
Yes.
But I mean, for me, the thing that's resonating most from your point of view is like there is actually deep personal work that you need to do to uncover and unearth that point of view that you have.
Yes. And like therapy, it can be really hard to do on your own.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's honestly like one of the major unexpected values that people get when they work with us, that they think they're getting a visual aesthetic brand or a website overhaul or a campaign. But because of this belief that I've had trouble articulating, and if you actually look back at the last 8 Design Tomorrow, Jonathan and Eric episodes, I've been building this subconsciously towards this point, poking, exploring. And I want to bring it back to the point of view is like, I've been teasing out these points of views and again, publishing them, articulating them, not just spinning on them in my brain, being exposed to pushback, and I've had some being exposed, especially on some of our strategy episodes. What do you mean strategy is conviction, right? Like, hey, fair point. I still believe it. And so like, this is what I'm like to bring it back to our listeners. I've shared my point of view. I'm happy to keep going on it. And thank you for the feedback on it. Like, point of view is an active thing that you develop that you should be working towards. And there is a point in time where it gets a little long in the tooth. I want to share one more thing. So I just got back this week from Skull World Forum. I had an amazing time, amazing opportunity to meet some of the most awesome human beings in the world doing incredible impact work. But you know what stood out to me out of everyone that I met? The ones who had a strong point of view are the ones that like stuck into my brain. Mm-hmm. And like, it almost didn't matter how much personal interest I had in their ecosystem or impact area or their issue. And there were some people that I met who I like cared a lot about their issue, but like, I don't really remember how they did their work because their point of view was a little bit weaker. And there's some people who I met with who had really strong points of view on things that I didn't have a lot of exposure or interest in that like nonetheless still stuck with me. So the point of view, like developing a strong point of view is like a really durable asset, and it has like really big downstream impacts on like how sticky your work is going to be.
Two things. One, like what you just described to me is like this, and almost like an idea of magnetism. And I've always like, even in my personal life, I've always loved just being with people who were fucking passionate about something, and it didn't matter what they were passionate about. Like I have a friend who's really into knives.
Okay.
And like, he'll sit there and tell me about sharpening knives for like 2 hours. And like, I love it because the dude is just so, I mean, I don't know if it's a point of view, but he's so into it and it's magnetic, and I want to be around him and I want to be a part of it. And I'm like, every time I look at my knife rack now, I think of my friend, right?
Yeah.
And I think part of what you're describing, even your experience at the Skull World Forum, is like the people who are sticking with you, there's like a magnetism there. And part of that comes from, or memorability or whatever, but part of that comes from that point of view, like this passion and this clear sense of self and this clear position and purpose in the world.
I think I agree. And I think what it comes from is like, in order to have a strong, differentiated point of view, it's almost required that you do deep work for a long time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could try and do a shortcut, right? And just like speed around a point of view. It's probably almost never going to work.
Well, something that's been rolling in the back of my head that I wasn't sure I was going to bring up was this, I wonder if part of what we're saying is unintentionally saying like younger leaders are less like positioned to have a strong point of view simply by their lifespan.
I think that's true. Like you think about like, the 10,000 hour rule, like to become a true master of any craft, you have to put in 10,000 practiced hours to get there. I think there's some kind of like corollary with point of view is like, in order to develop a strong and differentiated one that is actually like rooted in truth, you have to do deep work for a long time. You have to test and tease and see what works and experiment and tinker and to develop something like truly unique that no one else has that exact same point of view. It's really hard. And so
time is a factor in the development of this.
Yeah, time and hours in the trenches at some level, right? And deep thinking and reflection too.
Okay, just to like help tease out this concept some more. Like I want to put on the full ass like devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah, do it, please.
Right, where I'm like, okay, what is the antithesis of a strong point of view, and what would be the benefit of having that? So like the opposite that comes to mind for me would be one of like pure sort of like pure open-mindedness, pure receptiveness to the world, to the community, whatever, to your constituents, and like channeling what it is that you're hearing.
Yeah.
Rather than like having that sort of singular flag, in the sand.
Yep.
Right. So like for someone maybe there, and I know leaders like this, right? And I think that there's virtue in that. And I think that there's power in that. Like, what would you say to somebody who's like, wait a second, Eric, like my core belief is like, it's not my voice, it's everybody else's voice.
That's a point of view, right? You can't escape it.
Right. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And like, how did you get to that point?
Yeah, okay.
Right. You've done the deep work. Okay. I'd say that like slightly in jest, but I actually really struggle with this. Like, I have the kind of brain that is like a little bit unsure of my ideas and like constantly like rethinking, like overthinking, like what's the other side think? Like, honestly, sometimes I think to a fault where it's just like, dude, form an opinion and stick with it, bro. And like, I've actually been like working on this, not just because like I think it's smart to do that, but because I think it comes from a place of lack of self-confidence. There's always a balance there. It's like, you don't want to, if you take it too far, you're just like the confident asshole that has like no self-reflection or thought or can't possibly entertain. Like the pinnacle of this is like literal narcissism, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, not what I'm suggesting.
Right.
So I don't think those two things are actually as intention as you're presenting them. And what I mean by that is you can have a really strong point of view and be open to other people's points of view. It's not about a zero-sum game where you either win or lose. But I do think that like it's good to develop it or to have that be a goal that you're working towards, right? Even if you're not there. And like, hey, I'm in this process right now and like I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm landing, like trying to create this overarching point of view. And like my test for it is like, is this in resonance with what I truly believe in the work that I do and what I've learned doing this work? And like, I can check that box, no problem.
Yeah.
Is it differentiated? I think so. Like, are there other people that probably believe that too? Yes. Who are like in my space and maybe even direct competitors to me? Yeah. Are they articulating it in that way? Not quite, right? And they've developed their own point of view in how they do that. So like straight up inspiration for me on this that is in my space, who I'll shout out is Kevin L. Brown, who is the founder of Mighty Ally, who's like, we're like not exactly the same. I actually saw Kevin and met him in person at Skoll, which is awesome. And he knew who I was.
Yeah, what up,
awesome.
Kevin?
And he has a really strong and well-articulated point of view, which is that in order to be a successful organization in the social impact space, you need to be findable and you need to be fundable. Like, that's his like rallying cry.
Yeah.
And he has a whole system built around that. And it's like, I also agree with that. I'm in complete agreement with him, but I didn't articulate it that way. Right. So it's like, some of this comes down to articulation.
Yeah, and those, those things are complementary. There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
And so these things can complement each other. And there might be some people in the universe that resonate more with findable and fundable as a sort of a framework. And there are others who are going to resonate more with the identity impact gap more.
Yeah.
And that both of those can exist.
And I'll take it a step further. I think it's good to have conflicting points of view. So I'll shout one out that came up recently for me. Two people who I follow and respect a lot. Glenn Galich of the Stupski Foundation and Kevin Starr, who runs Malago. And both like very outspoken, convicted, strong points of view. And Glenn recently wrote a book called Control. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I do follow Glenn and his org in general. And Kevin actually wrote like a little bit of a counter point of view and
a takedown.
not quite a takedown,
Yeah.
but like he had some criticism. He challenged it. He had some criticisms.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is like, and I don't know if this episode's happened yet, but like Kevin's gonna go on Glenn's podcast
Nice.
called Break Fake Rules, and they're gonna like talk about it.
Nice.
I think that's healthy. I think that's healthy in this space, especially if it's done in good faith,
Yeah.
right? If it's
Yeah.
done
Right.
because we care about these issues and we want to come up with the best solutions or multiple good solutions to these problems. So I think we have to get over the like, oh, we all have to live in harmony. Like, strong, differentiated, even conflicting points of view. Like, I want as many good ideas about how to solve these issues as possible. And I don't think that there's any one right answer to them. So I really appreciate when leaders come out and say, hey, this is the work that we do, and here's how we think we should do it, and here's why we think this is best, and be willing to like be challenged on those
I
points.
think that's really important because in the space we often want to collaborate, right?
Yeah.
And for good reason. And I think there may be a fear that, hey, if I put my point of view out there too strongly,
Yeah.
maybe one of my collaborators isn't going to agree, and that's going to threaten the relationship.
Yeah.
And like fair, but also like maybe you have called on our sector to change and to grow and to get better, and maybe this is one of the ways we need to do that.
I think this is a really important way we do that because like we need to like learn from each other. I mean, this should be approached to some degree like science, right?
Yeah.
And take it back to the work that you do, right? Like, one of the beautiful things about science is like people need to do research, they need to develop hypotheses, they need to publish those, not just like think about them in their brains. Like, I would like to see a lot more people doing that. And this is why, to take it back to the top, it irks me when people say, I don't have a point of view on that. And my answer to you is, well, you should have one then.
Yeah, or you do, and you haven't done the work
Yes.
to sort of articulate it yet.
And I don't think that means that you need to have a opinion about everything that happens in the world, even in your space. Like, and I do think it's worth it to have some humility and be like, look, I'm not an expert on this topic. And sometimes the right choice for me is to just say nothing about it. I do that all the time. But there's something that you should have a point of view on. I believe if you run a social impact organization, especially at the leadership level, you should either have or should be actively developing a strong and differentiated point of view on the work that you do.
Here, man, preach. This I'm really glad that you're a voice in the space, because I think like I personally am like feeling motivated by this call.
Yeah. And I mean, like, hey, even reflecting, like, that is a meta point of view. One of my points of view is you should have one. So yeah, I think hopefully this is at least like a good, thought experiment for people to be like, hey, what are the elements? What, even start at the base level? Like, what have I observed doing this work? What are the patterns that I see? What are some of the opinions that I'm maybe starting to form about doing that work? And start to think about, like, how might I package that all up into some sort of overarching point of view, even if you don't like publish it out there as like a manifesto or a podcast. I think it's an important thing to be keeping in mind.
Cool. Well, dude, thank you for bearing it all today and working through it chicken dinner style.
Yeah, this is fun, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
If you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe, or even leave us a comment. It really helps. Thank you. And thank you for all that you do for your cause and for being part of the movement to move humanity and the planet forward.